sweet.
Our opening track tonight was a single I certainly bought back in 1982, I Want Candy by Bow Wow Wow, because like lots of young teenagers, I was completely mesmerized by this fierce young woman fronting up this band who didn't sound like anybody we'd ever heard before. So I am delighted to say she's joining us now from her home in California. Welcome to Annabella Lwin.
Hello, Jackie. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for taking the time.
And it's lovely. I'm thrilled to be speaking to you, Jackie. You're famous.
So are you, you know.
You are. Oh, don't know about that. But you are. So lovely to make your acquaintance.
So you're based in LA, right?
Yeah, I've been based here a while because they still employ oldies like me, which is great. You know, I like singing. I have done for many. Well, I love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be doing it. But yes. Indeed, I am. Yeah.
Well, we have Dave Wakeling of The Beat to thank for bringing us together tonight. When I last spoke to him, he told me that you were going to do the UK tour with him this summer, which I was very excited about. And he put us in touch, bless him. So have you guys toured together before?
Well, it's been 12 years in the making, discussing doing a few gigs together. To believe it or not, it's been a long time.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, we met a few times at different shows and different places, and you know, it's nice that it's actually solidified. But these things happen, you know. It's just the way of the music business, and it seems the film world. You know, things get delayed or things don't happen for a while, and I guess the time is right. So I expect people think it's a strange pairing because it's ska music, obviously with the kind of the Burundi vibes. You know, which obviously was meshed with the more calypso type Latin American. But, you know, I'm half Burmese English. So it kind of like, you know, when I started singing at 14, it all meshed anyway, I think, whatever I was doing. And it continued throughout my musical career. It's not about, you know, the genre necessarily. It's about the song and the singing and the playing. And it's always about that. It's the vibration that we are creating, and hopefully it's a good vibration. So we shall see. Supporting Dave Wakeling. I'm just along for the ride.
Mirror in the bathroom, please don't freak. The door is locked, just you and me. You're my mirror in the bathroom. Mirror in the bathroom.
One of The Beat's 9 top 40 hits, that's Mirror in the Bathroom, which got to number 4 in 1980. A couple of years ahead of when our special guest Annabella Lwin would have had her first hit with her band Bow Wow Wow. So let's go even further back, though, and hear what kinds of influences you were absorbing by osmosis at home.
Well, my mother used to listen to Demis Roussos a lot.
Oh, right.
And you know, and he had a brilliant, beautiful song she used to play all the time. It's one of her favourites called Forever and Ever.
Greek singer, I remember. Yeah.
He looked like a sumo wrestler, actually, to me, with a beard. But I just remember hearing this song, beautiful song, and he had the most beautiful voice. And it was, you know, forever and ever and ever and ever, you'll be my one. Anyway, it was a very romantic song. She was very romantic, my mum.
Ever and ever, forever and ever, you'll be me like the morning.
It was all about the melody and the tune. And then my oldest brother used to put on the Pink Floyd album Dark Side of the Moon all the time. So that was wafting around the house quite a lot. And I would always hear that. You know, it's that woman singing The Great Gig in the Sky. But I actually liked all the other tunes on that album. It was from the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. So there were all the tracks on that. I mean, it was brilliantly constructed. I mean, it took me many years to get my head wrapped around exactly what was going on, because it sounded like a lot of sound effects and things like that. But yeah, it was a very interesting period, actually. My younger years.
Do you remember, you know, the first single that you would have bought for yourself with your pocket money?
Yes, I do, because it was only 10 pence. And it cost me 10 pence. It was a little single, as in vinyl, back in those days. And it was Andrew Gold's, Never Let Her Slip Away.
Oh,
because it started off with the ding doo doo ding doo doo, the hand clapping, ding ding doo doo, ding doo ding doo. Anyway, it's lovely. I'm all out of tune. I don't know why. I think I need a cup of tea.
You're not.
Anyway, so it was called Never Let Her Slip Away, and I will never forget it, because when I heard his voice, and it was just reminded me, because my mother used to be away from us a lot because she was a single parent. So it reminded me of my mum, believe it or not.
Talk to my baby on the telephone, long distance. Let her slip away.
Never Let Her Slip Away. Andrew Gold got to number 5 in 1978, thanks to all the thousands of people who splashed out 10p to buy that vinyl 45, one of whom was an 11-year-old Annabella Lwin, who at that point was only 2 years away from being discovered herself by Malcolm McLaren and then fronting up the band Bow Wow Wow, which sounds utterly insane. We will be back to hear how that happened as we continue our great conversation with Annabella next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where tonight we're going to go wild in the country as it's just you, me, and our special guest here on the great conversation, Bow Wow Wow's incredible Annabella Lwin. Before the break, we heard about your first single vinyl purchase, Annabella. So the next question I normally would ask would be, do you remember the first live gig you went to? But because you started so early performing with Bow Wow Wow, what came first, Bow Wow Wow or your first gig before that?
Bow Wow.
Bow Wow Wow. So you'd never even seen a pop concert when you joined a pop band?
No, which was the irony of it, because that was when I went to see Tina Turner at the Ritz. No, it was the Limelight, I believe, in New York City.
Right, that was your first one.
That was my first ever concert. Blew me away. She was amazing, unique, amazing artist and woman and songwriter. And I read her book. I read the book that she wrote, and then the film came out years later. Anyway, I'm so glad, thankful and grateful that she succeeded. She had this song that she did on stage with the dancers, because she had the dancers when I saw her in New York City, and it was just so captivating to see them performing. And it was the song, Proud Mary, because it's the way she started the song.
Oh, wow.
It was all very,
yes,
subtly introduced, and then it suddenly got really crazy. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I like that.
Left a good job down in the city. Working.
The late and legendary Tina Turner with Proud Mary, a signature song that she performed throughout her career. And one of those times was at the Limelight Club in New York in front of our special guest, Annabella Lwin of Bow Wow Wow. That's a great first gig. But of course, that was well after you had joined Bow Wow Wow. Let's tell the story for those who don't remember or never realised at the time.
You mean all the millennials that were not born at that particular juncture in history?
Who would not believe that this sort of thing could happen? Not in this day and age, it couldn't happen.
I'm just a chick that joined a band at 14, that's all. But yeah, I was discovered in a dry cleaners. I had a Saturday job trying to get some pocket money, as I mentioned. And I was enlisted in the band to do an audition. After an audition, I was asked to join them, and pretty much that's what happened.
So in the Saturday job, you're at the dry cleaners. Were you sort of singing along to the radio the
radio, the top 40? It was every Saturday, yeah.
And who heard you? Who heard you and sort of discovered you?
Well, a lot of people who thought I was crazy because I was singing. All that time. It was so funny because music is a joyful thing.
Yeah.
And to actually have it whilst you're working, it lightens the day.
Yes, of course.
There's all sorts of things that people get up to now, I'm sure. But, at the time I was, in a very hot environment with a Jamaican guy and an Irishman who was my boss.
Right.
And it was just a very joyful experience. It was actually pretty short-lived after I joined the band, but I'm so thankful and grateful again for that experience, because it made me realize, it just made me realize that when you're even doing anything on a high street, you know, in a high street environment, there's just so much activity and life and vibrancy. And, you know, I remember, because I wasn't actually going to work there originally. I was hoping to go work somewhere else.
Right.
But I was looking for pocket money because my mother had 4 children to bring up and support. So I didn't get any money. So I got this day job to help me get my makeup and all the sorts of things that one likes to buy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was just singing along to the radio. And
so you were discovered by sort of an A&R person who referred you on to Malcolm McLaren.
I met Malcolm, I think pretty soon after. But yeah, he was just someone who was a scout, apparently. They were scouting people. That's all I'm aware of. They were scouting people, and he came in and heard. He'd been coming in a while, by the way. He was a customer.
Oh,
he was a regular. He didn't come in like, you know, that was it. He heard my voice and he went, oh! You know, it wasn't like that. And thunderbolt and lightning strikes or anything. He'd been coming in, occasionally. So I guess one day he happened to look around and hear me.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just saw my mum's pink top. I was wearing a very bright pink top. I can't remember. I used to wear a lot of baggy clothes back in the day because I loved wearing baggies. My brothers always gave me their hand-me-downs, which I loved. But anyway, so yeah, that's how I was discovered, I guess, yeah.
I don't like you. I don't like you, town. I don't want to like you. Got no balls shaking. I want to go hard to your feet.
Go Wild in the Country, the breakout for Bow Wow Wow, which got to number 7 in 1982. There was a lot of controversy surrounding you back then, Annabella, because of how young you were, to be sort of in amongst the decadence and, let's be honest, the danger of rock and roll back then. I mean, how old were you when you started with them?
I was 13 and a half.
13 and a half.
Very well. Yeah, 13 and a half. I actually auditioned for them. And then I turned 14 when I started going to do the work.
And did you sort of, how long did you have to sort of work before Bow Wow Wow started to get noticed and were on the verge of breaking through and having that hit?
Many months. It took many months because we were recording the cassette pet. And because I didn't have any idea what I was doing, Malcolm very kindly, directed me, as it were.
Right.
And I listened to him because he was the authority in that situation.
So who else would have been in your ether at that time as you were growing as an artist and learning to become?
In my sphere, you mean, Jackie? I like sphere. The word sphere is much better than ether. Ether sounds a little bit spiritual, like a poltergeist. In my sphere, who else was in my sphere at the time? Nobody. I was just working with Malcolm, and he was always with us when we were going into rehearsal situations and whatever. He was there from the get-go.
And were you sort of, did you get to have any camaraderie with any other fellow artists at the time? I mean, it was a very exciting time for music.
No, it was just working on writing and recording and studio. And I was still at school. So I was trying to fit that in as well. So as you can imagine, it wasn't probably the easiest of things to do. But it was lovely to be able to still go see my closest friends and talk about what was going on. I had that camaraderie from my friends that I had at the time.
Do you remember your first Top of the Pops?
Yes, I do, because my first fiance was there and he threw a hat at me. So I was well pleased, as you can imagine. I remember it distinctly, Martin, so don't forget, because I know I have a really good memory. Yeah, it was the best. It was one of the weirdest experiences, though, because we'd just flown from somewhere very far away because we'd been in the studio recording.
Right.
And apparently we were asked to go, jetting over to the UK from Miami to perform on Top of the Pops.
Thursday, the 11th of February, 1982. And my God, you were on with some great bands. Because, of course, it was always a mixture of people who were in studio and then videos and sort of satellite links and things like that. But in the studio with Bow Wow Wow were Bananarama and Funboy 3.
Oh, my gosh.
Depeche Mode and Haircut 100. We're all on that show.
Oh, yes, the guy with the yellow... He used to wear yellow rain jackets a lot.
That's right. And Aaron And Aaron's sweaters.
He looks totally different now, though, I have to say. He's looking very buff
Yeah.
these days, old Nick. And good for him.
I went on to the right.
Love Plus One got to number 3 for Haircut 100, who were in the studio with Bow Wow Wow during their debut appearance on Top of the Pops in 1982. And we will be back with their lead singer, Annabella Lewin, as we continue our great conversation next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, the home of great conversations with some of the most amazing artists of the 70s, 80s and 90s. Tonight, beaming in from her home in LA, we're joined by Annabella Lewin, lead singer of Bow Wow Wow. And Annabella, before the break, we talked about that first big hit, Go Wild in the Country.
Malcolm wrote that song about me going on my summer holidays, because that's what I used to do. Because half my heritage is, my mother was English and my father was from Burma.
Right.
So that in itself is a big hop, skip and jump, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it certainly did the trick, because you had that huge hit. And were you then, as was often the case, certainly back then, sent out on a big tour with a hugely established artist to sort of try and get as much exposure as possible?
Yes, we supported Queen
Wow.
and the Pretenders and the Police and Echo and the Bunnymen. I think we did that Sefton Park thing that was supporting Echo and the Bunnymen. There was many groups that were around at the time, including U2. We supported U2 for one show in
Wow.
San Francisco. There was talk of that was the early U2 I'm talking about.
Right.
And there was talk of us doing some more dates with them. But of course,
You guys didn't stay together long enough for that to happen.
it's so sad to think of the fact that some of these groups that were around then, just went on, which is the whole point. You just have to keep steady.
All is quiet on New Year's Day.
1983, New Year's Day, the first big hit U2 had. They were well on their way and had Bow Wow Wow supporting them. But then it all kind of crashed and burned, and you suddenly found yourself, Annabella, feeling pretty abandoned, apparently finding out that you'd been kicked out of the band by reading about it in the NME. Did you really have no idea?
Nope. Not at all. But I didn't know that I was already signed to a record label, which for a lot of people would have been thrilling. But at the age of 17, having worked very, very hard from my formative years prior to that, it was like, the tarot deck. There's a symbol of a tower crashing and falling in the tarot, T-A-R-O-T, tarot cards. Do you do tarot reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that in my world at that time, which is probably why things didn't work out. But I have to say I'm very grateful to all the people. I really am. I'm really grateful to all the people along the way, along my path. I think it was a learning curve, because if I thought at the time that I was something special at some point, if I had, I can't remember ever thinking that, but there's a lot of egos that can fly around.
Of course.
And obviously when I was kicked out, officially or unofficially, because, you can't kick a member of a band out when they're already a member. It's that's the original member.
Yes. And the front person.
It's a shame that I had to experience some of the things I did, but I learned a lot from it. And I'm really grateful for the fans, because if it hadn't been for the fans, I really wouldn't have continued. That's all I can tell you. So I'm really grateful. And I really, truly, sincerely mean that, no matter what.
When did you start to enjoy performing again?
Oh, I've always enjoyed performing. I've never stopped loving it. I've loved every minute of singing on a stage. The only time I've had a few occasions, very rare, may I say, is when they've had sound problems that involve people who don't know what they're doing on the sound desk.
Right.
Because, you go through all the trouble of rehearsing and getting together the musicians and the band sound, and everybody's doing their bit, and it's one person that lets the whole crew down. So there is a truth in that element of it's always a weak link.
Yeah.
You have to have a strong team. Like I went to see Carleen Anderson in concert once. Do you remember Carleen Anderson?
I do. She was Young Disciples, wasn't she, Carleen?
She was at the Brixton Academy. Brilliant singer. Lovely, lovely singer. And I mean, it was a surprise to me that, you know, not more was happening with her, but what a great performer, great singer. And she had the worst sound and the musicians were just not cutting it, but she was carrying that whole show. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It would have been a better experience for everybody if, you know, everyone had been doing their bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with that voice. What a great band they were.
She was brilliant. Yeah, the Young Disciples. What a great song.
Number 13 in 1991, Apparently Nothing from the Young Disciples. Big thanks to our special guest Annabella Lwin for bringing that one into the mix. It's been so long since I've heard it. One last ask of you then, Annabella, and that is to pick our final track of the evening. We're looking for a song that resonates with you again and again because it sums up a life philosophy or it just delivers on its ability to put you in exactly the space you're seeking. What would that song be for you?
My song that resonates as a life lesson philosophies or an inspiring song was True Colours by Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, I love that song.
True Colours is just a unique and brilliant song. I remember hearing that, you know, years later. And that's kind of what when I'm writing, and I've written many songs now. Some of them, most of them actually, haven't seen the light of day. We'll see if I can get them to see the light of day. But that's what I always aspire to, is having a song that will last a long time.
Yeah. What a great final track. Cyndi Lauper, True Colours from 1986. Thanks so much to our special guest Annabella Lwin of Bow Wow Wow for that superb choice. Well, listen, it's been so lovely speaking with you, Annabella. We can't wait to have you back in the UK.
Jackie, bless you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, you guys.
Okay, thank you, Annabella.
Be well. Mwah. Bye.
Annabella Lwin, what a lovely lady.